Is this the year for the Dallas Cowboys? Probably not, but Cowboys fans think it's their year every offseason, and it hasn't been since 1996. Dallas hasn't even made it past the divisional round since then. There was the Tony Romo era of regular season success without postseason wins, and history has repeated itself with Dak Prescott. The Cowboys have a good team. They just can't break through. Who knows why? Coaching, but with enough talent and good roster construction, a team can win anyways. Dallas is a contender, it's just whether or not they'll live up to expectations. The Cowboys have been consistently good, but consistently fallen short. I'm telling you right now though, their roster is good enough to make a postseason run, but Dak Prescott is going to have to play well enough to make that happen. Dak Prescott is the single most important player on the Cowboys. If Dallas is good, that means Dak is probably playing well. The Cowboys need him to play at a high level, and they're paying him to. Back in 2021, Dallas extended Dak on a 4-year, $160 million deal. Now, that contract is really starting to matter because Dallas does have an out, which would be $61.9 million in dead cap. If he plays out the remainder of the contract, he'll be $59.4 million against the cap in 2024. That leaves only really one good way to get out of being a cap-strapped team, and that's going to be extending Dak Prescott, which should probably happen anyways. He's one of those guys that is a borderline top 10 guy in the league that isn't elite, but you're not going to find anybody better than him. You're kind of stuck with him and should just try to build the roster around him as well as possible to win games. Dallas has done a solid job of giving Dak talent to work with, but there have been a lot of shortcomings too. When you look at the Cowboys offense last season, one of the biggest glaring issues was in the passing game. See, last offseason, Dallas traded away Amari Cooper for pennies on the dollar to the Browns, and he was clearly missed. Cooper had a good year in Cleveland with over 1,100 yards and 9 touchdowns. Meanwhile, CeeDee Lamb continued to be the Cowboys' number 1. He had 1,300 yards and 9 touchdowns. And see, there's no doubt that he's a good receiver, but the Cowboys were weak behind him. Noah Brown and Michael Gallup were the Cowboys' top wideouts past Lamb, and they didn't even have 1,000 yards combined. Dallas had a clear need, and they addressed it by trading a 5th and 6th for Brandon Cooks from the Texans. He's bounced around the league in his 9-year career, but he does have 6 seasons with over 1,000 yards, and Cooks should make a very good 2 behind CeeDee Lamb. The passing attack will look different at tight end too though. Dalton Schultz had the 2nd most receiving yards on the team last season, but he signed with Houston in free agency. Now, that should leave Jake Ferguson as the new starter. He only had 174 yards and 2 touchdowns as a rookie last season. Dallas did also draft Luke Schoonmaker in the 2nd round out of Michigan. I'm not really sure what to expect from the Cowboys passing game this season, but I do think it will be improved from 2022, even if it's not a lot. Last year, the Cowboys' top rusher was Tony Pollard. He had 1,000 yards and 9 touchdowns. His rookie deal did end, but Dallas franchise tagged him. Now, the Cowboys did have a 2-headed backfield with Pollard and Ezekiel Elliott. Elliott has averaged 1,100 yards and 10 touchdowns rushing per season over 7 years in Dallas. Well, it's also not a secret that he isn't the same back he was earlier in his career. And add that to his $16.7 million cap hit, and the Cowboys decided to release him. They did take Kansas State's Deuce Vaughn in the 4th round at the draft. I'm really just not too sure what to think of the Cowboys running back rotation, but I do know that Tony Pollard is going to be running point. Unfortunately, gone are the days of the Cowboys having the best offensive line in the league, but they're still pretty damn good. Zach Martin is still in Dallas and is still an elite guard entering his 10th season on the right side. He'll be in the hall one day. Tyron Smith is over at left tackle. Now, he's had an incredible career, but he hasn't played a full season since 2015. Injuries have been an issue, and his health is probably the single most important thing to the Cowboys offensive line. First round rookie Tyler Smith Smith played when Tyron Smith was out with a torn hamstring. Now Tyler Smith is moving over to left guard after Connor McGovern signed with the Bills this offseason. Center Tyler Biadasz did just make the Pro Bowl after he didn't give up a single sack last season. Then at right tackle, Terrence Steele is coming off of a torn ACL and MCL. It's still a good line, but there are a lot of injury concerns, and things could get rocky in Dallas if they can't stay healthy. Luckily, the offense isn't the unit Dallas is going to rely on the most next season. The Cowboys' defense is stacked, and it all starts with Micah Parsons. He is one of, if not the best defensive player in the league right now. Parsons is coming off of a 13.5 sack season and is the current betting favorite for Defensive Player of the Year. On the other side of Parsons is DeMarcus Lawrence. Those two together off the edge is lethal. The Cowboys might have the best pass rush in football, but inside the defensive line has been kind of an issue. But Dallas did attempt to address it. They drafted Mozzie Smith out of Michigan in the first round. Defensive tackle has just been a weaker unit, but defensive end has been able to cover it up. At linebacker, Dallas did extend Leighton Vander Esch to a 2-year, $8 million deal, but it's still not a great position group. Cornerback, on the other hand, is. Trayvon Diggs is a ball hawk. He has 17 interceptions in 3 seasons and is close to getting a very big extension. This offseason, Dallas made his life even easier by trading a compensatory 5th-round pick to the Colts for Stephon Gilmore. He looked like he lost a step in Carolina, but then returned to form in Indianapolis. Now he gets to team up with Trayvon Diggs and make one of the best corner tandems in the league. Dallas also extended Donovan Wilson on a 3-year, $21 million deal to keep their top safety around. It's a very talented defense, but remember that it underperformed until the Cowboys hired Dan Quinn to be their defensive coordinator. Dan Quinn was the Falcons head coach for 6 years and even got Atlanta to a Super Bowl, but he was fired during the 2020 season. That led to him taking the defensive coordinator job with the Cowboys, and he's completely transformed their defense. Quinn even had head coach interviews this offseason, but decided to stick around in Dallas. Still, he's going to be getting interviews again next season. The Cowboys do have a new offensive coordinator, though. Kellen Moore had some success in Dallas, but there needed to be some kind of scapegoat after another disappointing playoff exit. The Cowboys and Moore decided to part ways, and it didn't take long for Moore to be hired as the Chargers offensive coordinator. Dallas promoted Brian Schottenheimer from coaching analyst to offensive coordinator. I think he'll be good. He's had success in the past at offensive coordinator, most recently with the Seahawks. Overall, I just like the Cowboys coordinators. I think Dan Quinn is top of the line, and Brian Schottenheimer has a good track record. But there is a problem at head coach. Mike McCarthy is a good regular season head coach, but he has 16 years of history that show he couldn't get it done in the postseason. The Packers broke through and won the Super Bowl back in 2010, but that is his only Super Bowl appearance despite having a Hall of Fame quarterback on his roster. Aaron Rodgers dragged him to 1 ring, but it doesn't take away from the countless playoff disappointments Green Bay had under McCarthy. So far in Dallas, he's done the same, just disappoint. Now, McCarthy is simply the go-to guy for Jerry Jones, who also hasn't had success in the postseason in almost 30 years. The Cowboys have the talent and the roster to be a Super Bowl caliber team, and they have a quarterback that's good enough to get them there. But it's just hard to see it happening under Mike McCarthy because prime Aaron Rodgers isn't walking through that door to save him.